All right, I know it's January, there's still snow on the ground, but for a lot of us that means time to get a new boat and look forward towards the upcoming kayaking season. So I just wanted to show you guys a couple tips today on how to outfit your kayak. Right, so the first step for outfitting your Dagger kayak with the Contour outfitting is to adjust the seat, how far forward or how far back you want it. So there's 3 places where you're gonna have to loosen a bolt for this. So in the very front of your seat, there is a bolt right here that you'll need to loosen, and it slides along this rail here. So you're gonna have to loosen that one before you can move your seat forward or backwards. As well, on either side of your kayak, there's 2 bolts here, and those connect to the seat itself right about here. And all you need to do is loosen those bolts. You don't need to pull them all the way out. So here we go. I am loosening this one, getting it nice and loose, and then going back and loosening both of these ones. So you can see this bolt's just loosened. You know, it's popping up a little bit, but again, you don't need to pull it up any farther than that. For these bolts, as well as the one at the front there, just slightly loosened so you can wiggle it around. So yeah, we all have different preferences about where our seat is in our kayak. Dagger sends them out usually with the seats right about in the middle. I personally like mine all the way forward so I can really drive the boat. So I'm gonna go ahead and move the seat forward. So it takes a little bit of force to get this thing forward. What I like to do is put my feet here and slide forward. And as I slide this forward, sometimes this tightens up, this front bolt, so you might have to loosen it again and keep pushing. So I just loosened this front bolt up a little bit more. Again, sometimes as you push forward at the seat, it'll tighten this, but this should be able to move back and forth. So when you're moving your seat forward or backwards, this front bolt isn't gonna give you a gauge really about where your seat is. The best gauge is gonna be where these bolts fall into the seat here along the side. So for me, like I said, I like my seat all the way forward. So I'm running my hand up against the back of the seat here on the side, and I can see that my hand is right next to that back bolt. So it really is pushed as far forward as we can get it. Now, if I run my hand along the front of the plastic seat there, I can see that it's way farther forward than the back. So that's good for me because I like my seat all the way forward. So once you have your seat right where you like it, the next step is just going to be to retighten these bolts on the sides, as well as the one bolt at the front where it connects to your center pillar. All right, the seat is nice and solid. It's not moving forward or backwards. So the next step is going to be adjusting the bulkhead. And there's our nut that keeps the bulkhead in place right up there. So this is looking in towards the bulkhead at the front of the kayak. These 2 bolts right here, you're just gonna have to loosen those up a little bit, kind of like we did with the seat, just so there's enough room so that we can adjust it. Okay, so this step of adjusting the bulkhead seems really simple, and that all it's doing is putting our feet where we want it inside the kayak. But with this bulkhead that Dagger has, it actually adds a lot of structural stability to the kayak. So this is a step we want to take seriously, as it does really help give the boat a little bit of extra structure. So right now I have loosened those 2 bolts in the bulkhead, and we're gonna hop inside the boat and adjust the little nuts that hold the bulkhead in place, and we're gonna adjust that just as if we're going kayaking. So as you can see, there's no foam in there yet. We haven't put that in place next to the bulkhead. And we're gonna pull this out and try to pull it as far back as we can, still sitting in here comfortably. Okay, so my feet are in here. I'm pushing really good pressure against the bulkhead as if I was kayaking. And I'm gonna hook this bulkhead onto the bolt and leave it there, hop outside the kayak. So once you're here, you can kind of mark where you're at. You can see there's 7 holes showing before I go through a bolt. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it off and pull it one closer. So in this case, so that we have 8 of these holes showing. So as we look in here, this plastic piece can move around freely because it's loose. It should be loose on both those bolts. So our goal is to push it as far up and out to the outside corner of the boat as possible. So as we're looking down here, we have these 2 bolts loosened, and that lets this front piece slide around against the bulkhead, but it also lets us move this metal piece where it connects to the bulkhead out or in. And when we're outfitting this, we want to push these bolts as far to the outside as possible. We're really trying to fill up as much of this space in here as we possibly can. So as you can see, this is where those 2 bolts ride along the bulkhead through that notch right there, and they're connected to the metal frame on the outside. So if we push this out, we're pushing that metal frame out, and it's sliding along this rail, and we're filling in all of this extra space over here as we really push that top plastic piece out to the outside and up towards the top. Okay, so we've got both the bulkheads set. You can see that this top plastic piece is really pushed out, filling out the top. The bottom plastic piece is touching the bottom of the kayak. We've got the same thing going on over here. All this volume is totally filled up. And the next step is gonna be getting that bulkhead a little bit further forward and into place. All right, seat is in place. Bulkhead is just about where we want it. Now we're gonna put this foam against the bulkhead, and it has this really convenient Velcro, so you can kind of just stick it up against the back of the bulkhead there. It's in there like this. So those fit in. Just kind of shove them in there. Try to have them kind of flush to the bottom. So the reason that we cranked on the bulkhead and brought it even closer to the paddler towards the seat as possible is because the kayak, as you can tell here, it's narrower up front and wider towards the back. So the further back that we get with that, the more that we can open up the bulkhead and really have that fill out all of the volume there. And now we're getting back in our kayak, we're getting ready to loosen the nuts that hold the bulkhead bars in place. And now we're gonna push the bulkhead forward even farther. And as we do that, it's really gonna fit snug into the front of your kayak. And right where it rests up against the front of your boat, it's gonna create this nice, stable, sturdy piece of kind of interior plastic and interior framing almost to just keep the boat in place. So the bulkhead has been loosened again. You can tell the rail there that holds the bulkhead in place has been disconnected from that bolt that sticks through. And now we're just gonna use our leg and push the bulkhead forward until it feels comfortable. So once we've pushed this bulkhead all the way forward, you know, we want to be nice and snug in here. If you're doing a longer paddling trip, you might want it a little bit looser, but we're gonna find the spot that looks best for us and put the bulkhead bar back onto that bolt so it's in place. All right, so once we've put this bulkhead bar back onto that bolt, we're gonna hop out and put our screw back on, put our nut on. Nuts are super awesome. They're really easy to use. And we're just going to screw it right on to this bolt right there. Now, unless you maybe have one leg that's a little longer than the other, these should line up the same. So you want, let's see, we have 7 exposing holes before the screw on one side. We're gonna do the same over there on the other side. All right, we're getting really close. We have the bulkhead adjusted. It's really nice and snug in here. And as you can see, this is where the bulkhead is. And if I push pressure down right here, you can really feel the bulkhead pushing through, and it's keeping this boat extra stable. So little added bonus of stability there. Now all we have to do is add foam to the hip pads, and then maybe a piece of foam under the seat if you want to boost yourself up a little bit. So inside your outfitting bag, along with this tool that's included with every outfitting bag, you'll also find a seat insert. And if you like to sit up a little higher, have a little bit of more of a reach when you're paddling, this slides in nicely here. So the easiest way to get this seat cushion in, if you want the added bonus, is to just peel this back. This is the seat cover, and it's on a little bungee there, so it's really easy to just bend over that corner. So you can see the bungee stretched out below that seat, and it gives me plenty of space to slide this foam cushion in. If you want, you can also pull the bungee back over here, and that'll open up a little bit more space for you. So now I'm just shoving this in, trying to squeeze it all the way back in there, and you can tell it just fits in there really easily, really snugly. And yeah, I always paddle with a little booster seat in. I feel like it gives me just a little bit more reach when I'm leaning forward, a little bit more height inside the kayak. So there you go. So in addition to sliding this seat cushion in, again, that's an optional thing just if you want to sit higher, but this ratchet right here just really easily lets you adjust kind of the height of the front of your seat. I like to crank this thing really tight just so I feel nice and tight inside my kayak. If you want it looser, just like the ratchets on the side, you pull that black lever back, slide it over. But yeah, play around tightening this up, and it may feel nicer if you have it nice and cranked up under your bottom. So now we're on to the hip pads. These come out very easily. We can just unbuckle there, unbuckle behind the seat as well, right there, and then we can unvelcro it, pull it up. So this is the hip pad and the Contour outfitting, and mine's a little dirty, but inside of it there's plenty of room to stick extra foam pads, little shims to fit this out for you. So also included in your Contour outfitting bag is a bunch of shims, and these allow you to adjust the hip pads however you like. If you like a little bit more pressure in the front, you could slide this in just like so, like that. If you want more pressure in the back or the bottom, these kind of wedge shims work well for that. So a bunch of shim options here. My personal preference is to just put 2 of these wedge shims together, and that creates maybe 3/4 of an inch of cushion on either side of my hips. So I'm sliding these shims just right into the hip pad. They go in there quite easily. Right, shims are inserted. I'm gonna put this little Velcro tab back on there and fold down my hip pad, and it will Velcro into place. So you kind of want to have it positioned where you like it. Velcro it into place, and then buckle here in the front and also in the back there. All right, this boat is looking good. We have the bulkhead adjusted. We have the seat moved a little bit forward. The hip pad shims are in place, and all we need to do now is crank on the back band. So the back band adjusts really easily. There's this strap that goes through here up to a ratchet system, and you just ratchet it forward, and that tightens the back band. To loosen the back band, you put some pressure on the back band with your hand or with the back of your lower back, and you pull this black trigger towards you, and it'll slide back. Now, if there's a little bit of slack in your back band, you can move that through by pulling on this and just pulling through here, adjusting the strap as you would a helmet strap or anything like that. And that can get rid of a little bit of this extra material. So as you can see, I kind of pulled the extra slack through here, and now this is just a little bit more tail here. but that allows me to really crank forward with the seat and keep this back band pushed far forward. One final little piece to outfitting these kayaks is this little buckle right here that connects to the back of the kayak. There's actually 3 of them, one here, and one below that's already clipped in. So without these buckles buckled in, this seat's really just creating a flat kind of piece of pressure to push up against your back. And also it has the ability to slide under like this, and that could kind of create a safety issue. I've actually been in one situation before where I was getting thrown around, pulled all around my kayak, and I didn't have my buckles buckled in the back of my seat. This back band fell underneath my seat as I was getting pulled out of the kayak, and when I went to sit back down, I was sitting on top of this back band without a back band in place. It was kind of a scary situation, and it's really, really easily avoidable if you just buckle these into place. So again, one more look. This is the seat, nice and taut with all the buckles in place. As soon as I unclip those, unclip this bottom one, now this thing's moving around all over the place. It just doesn't have the stability that it did earlier. All right, this boat is looking really nicely outfitted. The one last thing that we can adjust, I personally actually never do this in my kayaks, but if you like your thigh braces to be moved either forward or backward, it's quite easily. Just like we adjusted the seat on the side here with these Allen wrench bolts, there's similar bolts here that go through. These are Phillips head bolts that go through, and they connect to these little rubber nuts underneath that you can hand tighten and hand loosen. So I just loosened that enough. Again, with these ones, just like the seat, all you have to do is loosen this just enough that the thigh brace can move forward or backwards. So underneath here, there's a very similar thing. To access it, it helps to undo this ratchet, and you can see the ratchet is kind of in the way there. So if you undo that, pull this ratchet out, then that'll expose the bottom of this bolt and give you just the room that you need to pinch onto that rubber nut and loosen that up enough that this can slide back and forth. Now this front screw or bolt is connected to another rubber nut on the bottom. But in this situation, however, you can see there's individual holes. So you have to take this bolt all the way out and then adjust it as to which hole you want your thigh braces held into. These bolts and the nuts beneath them, you just have to loosen those enough. They slide on rails really similarly to how the seat slides forward and backwards. So again, these back 2 bolts on the thigh braces, just loosen those, and this front one, pull that all the way out. You can move it forward and back until you find one of those holes to put the front bolt into, and then all you have to do is tighten up this one and tighten up that one. And again, all this is doing is allowing your thigh braces to move forward or backwards. Kind of depends, where on your knee or your thigh you want that pressure. If you want it further back, slide the thigh braces further back. If you want it forward on your knee, slide it forward a bit. All right, boat's looking good to go. Now, we do have this really convenient tool that's included, like I said, in all of the Contour Ergo Outfitting kits. And a real convenient place to put it is right into your foam in the back pillar of your kayak. Kind of nice place to keep it there. In case a friend wants to borrow your kayak and adjust anything, they can use that, and you're ready to go. Oh yeah, got ourselves a nicely outfitted Dagger Phantom. This thing is gonna be fun to take out on the water. And yeah, those are just some of my tips that I thought I'd share after having outfitted a lot of these Dagger kayaks with the Contour Ergo Outfitting. And if you really take just like half an hour, 45 minutes to adjust your boat properly and kind of create really nice, tight fitting outfitting inside your kayak, it's gonna really affect the way that you paddle. So I hope this has helped out. If you have any questions, maybe send a DM to the Dagger Kayaks Instagram page or Facebook page, and those guys can probably point you in the direction of, you know, any questions you may have, any other pointers that you're looking for. I'm sure they can help you out with that. So I hope this has helped. Have fun out there on the water.